represent the 36th District in Southern California. I'm an emergency medicine physician, public health expert, and more importantly, under these circumstances, a father of beautiful 3-year-old toddler twins. And today we're here to talk about the tragic human health toll caused by the administration's cruel and inhumane new zero tolerance, also known as the zero humanity policy. As healthcare and public health providers, we have a moral obligation to talk about the long-term irreversible harm of depriving toddlers and infants and young children of the comforting embrace of their mothers and fathers. Standing with me today are public health experts, psychologists, nurses, and other frontline health providers who know just how traumatizing this experience is for these children. I'm also honored to be joined by other members of Congress like Whip Hoyer and soon to arrive Leader Pelosi. Thank you for their time and their voice and leadership in this manner. And also Representative Bernice Johnson, who's here with us. The Trump administration has separated more than 2,000 children from their parents, including inflicting toxic stress and irreversible psychological trauma on these children. Toxic stress occurs when a child experiences strong, repetitive, or prolonged adversity without the adequate adult support to help them cope. It can disrupt their brain's development at a critical time, which increases their future risk of so many emotional and physical health problems like heart disease, diabetes, depression. These children will have difficult time learning, meaning that they will have a higher risk of dropping out of school. They will have severe separation anxiety, sometimes to a point where they won't be able to function. They will not be able to interpret what love is or accept the love that people give them, meaning that they will have a very difficult time sustaining supportive, emotional, normal, caring, stable relationships in their own future. They will have a higher risk of falling into depression. They will have a higher risk of substance abuse, diabetes, and heart disease. And the longer that they remain separated, the more severe and long-lasting these negative health consequences will be. So just imagine it is your child. Children sitting on the floor crying uncontrollably for you, and you're not there to comfort them. You're miles away and don't even know where your child is being detained. It's heartbreaking. It truly is. But the cure for toxic stress is, and also the cure for our humanity, our nation's humanity, is very simple. We must immediately reunite parents with their children so they can coddle them, so they can comfort them, so that the children can have a stable, loving environment and relationship with an adult who loves them, who cares for them. Although some of this injury is irreversible, we can reduce the intensity of the symptoms if we do that immediately. Yesterday, President Trump admitted that it was his new policies that were separating children from their families. But it does not reunite the over 2,000 children that are already suffering and will continue to suffering. And it also seeks to indefinitely detain children in indecent conditions and repeal legal protections for detained children. Indefinite or prolonged incarceration in cage-like structures also inflicts psychological trauma and harm with or without their families. Under the President's executive order, there is no plan to reunite families, and parents instead must somehow find their children while themselves being detained. And so I call on President Trump to immediately end his zero humanity policy, reunite children with their parents, and get them the medical, mental health, and social services they need to recover from the severe psychological trauma caused by his reprehensible action. No matter your political affiliation or your opinion on immigration policy, we can all agree that the well-being of a child is what is most important here. This isn't about politics. This is about decency. It's about children. Let's practice our humanity, reunite these families, provide children with the emotional support they need, and prevent this from ever happening again. Kids need a stable, loving environment and their parents' arms to comfort them. With that, I am pleased. With that, I am pleased to recognize the Democratic leader, Nancy Pelosi.
Thank you for bringing us together once again on behalf of the children of the world. Dr. Ruiz, here with you and our lawyer, Dr. Susan Van Cleve, and Dr. Raul Ruiz, and so many other healthcare professionals. We're here to attest to the concern that we all have about the harm being done, that has been done, and continues to be done to our children because of separation. Not just children separation, but family separation. Listen to President Trump. We think that we have to make a choice between protecting our borders and caring for our children. That is simply not true, thank God. He charges that those of us who criticize his family separation policy are wanting open borders. That's simply not true. We have always all supported honoring our oath of office to protect and defend our Constitution and our country, and part of that responsibility is to secure our borders. We just don't think we should do it by putting children in cages. Mr. President, we don't think there is a better way to secure our borders than putting children in cages. With the President's new policy, will the Republican bills on the floor do anything to help children? The President's executive order does not end his family separation policy. Just a few minutes ago, that's how you all gathered here, the President said to the White House, this policy leads to separation ultimately. That's what the President said. This policy said leads to separation. The President's plan violates the basic right to health and security. I know you'll be hearing from healthcare professionals, and we've heard from the American Academy of Pediatrics. Family separation detention pose serious dangers to children's health. I'm sure our health professionals will agree to that. The President proved yesterday that with a stroke of the pen and a policy that he wants to, he must fully end this horrible policy created by a stroke of the pen for the sake of the children. With that, I'm pleased to yield to our distinguished witnesses, not only passionate on this issue, but very focused and intellectual way as a legislative virtuoso that what we can do is the right thing to protect our children. And I'm sure he'll tell you that he is a great man. That is not to say great in terms of a fabulous man. He is a great grandfather. Great grandfather, Steny H.
Certainly am a great grandfather. Whether I'm great is another issue entirely. I don't have a white coat on. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a med student. I'm not a psychiatrist or a psychologist or a nurse practitioner. But I am a great grandfather. And my youngest great granddaughter is approximately 13 months. If anybody tried to rip her from my granddaughter's arms, I would be outraged as I am outraged about what's happening on the border today. I don't have to be a doctor to know that it deeply damages children, not to mention the parents. How one could do that in the face of the cries and anguish of those children is beyond me. Dr. Ruiz, you very much for inviting so many of your colleagues. A number of whom, by the way, are Johns Hopkins. I just thought I would mention that. One of the great hospitals of the world, located in our state. Dr. Benjamin, Susan Van Cleve, Dr. Evans, thank you for being here with so many of your colleagues. The medical and mental health professionals that you're going to hear from soon can attest to the long-term harm, not just the day of anguish, not just the week of anguish, the long-term damage that is being done. Separating children as young as babies from their parents is unspeakably cruel. As John McCain said, and I quote, "It is an affront to the decency of the American people." The executive order President Trump signed yesterday does not resolve this crisis that he created. All he has to do is pick up the phone and call the Secretary and the Attorney General and say, stop this policy of wrenching children from the arms of their parents. He, as he will tell us all, is a very powerful president of the United States. A simple phone call. Not an executive order, not a piece of legislation. By the way, the piece of legislation that he is supporting here will not solve the problem. He certainly doesn't get to claim political courage for pretending to fix a dangerous policy he himself implemented. Make no mistake, his order does not end the detention of innocent children. The choice he is now saying, well, we won't separate you, we'll just put you in jail together. Oh, hallelujah. Misdemeanor, crossing the border. Misdemeanor. The child, of course, has created no crime. The child is incarcerated with the parent. What a generous shift of policy that is. This order puts entire families into prison camps indefinitely. And it's deeply disturbing that reports indicate that the Trump administration, as has been said by the leader, and said by Dr. Ruiz, has no plans to reunite children with their parents. They can't even get the comfort of being told, you'll be together tomorrow, you'll be together next week, you'll be together at some definite time in the future. Not even that comfort is offered by the President and this administration. We must not let this continue. President Trump needs to put these children's well-being first. We're going to have a vote in just a few minutes and perhaps another hour on two bills. Neither solve this problem. We're going to hear of what this problem is. Hopefully, Mr. President, you will hear the anguish of the American people and act. Thank you very much.
Next, we have Dr. Susan Van Cleve, the past president of the National Association of Pediatric Nurse Practitioners.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm a pediatric nurse practitioner, and I work in a mental health practice in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. What I do in that practice is I provide care to the children who are the most vulnerable, many of whom have suffered from adverse childhood experiences or what we call toxic stress. And so firsthand, I have been able to witness the pain and the suffering that these children have when they have watched a parent die from an opioid overdose, or when they have been removed from the home through child abuse services. And the stress that they experience causes short-term and long-term mental health problems, physical problems, chronic illnesses, and has pretty serious long-term effects. We know that over 2,300 children have been separated at the border. I don't want to repeat what other people have said, but the thought of these children being ripped from their parents' arms and placed in a cage or in a camp is really disheartening. So for us to re-traumatize them is just completely wrong. We can really do better than this. These children need to be reunited with their children, put in safe environments. We know of the negative impact of institutional living, so we do not want them to be living in these cages or in these camps. And their safety needs to be of the utmost importance to us. We should not be re-traumatizing them, but re-ensuring that these children are treated as children and not as small adults. This traumatization of children crossing the borders and being taken from parents has created a humanitarian crisis. We urge immigration officials to use the quickest means possible to determine family relationships, immediately cease separation of children from their families, and reunite those who have been separated to date. Thank you.
Next we have Dr. Arthur Evans Jr., CEO of the American Psychological Association.
Good afternoon. I'm Arthur Evans. I'm the CEO for the American Psychological Association. I'm a clinical and community psychologist. I also, prior to coming to APA, was a mental health commissioner in both Connecticut and in Pennsylvania. I'm also a child welfare director. So I can talk firsthand about the impact of the policies that we're seeing on children and families. The American Psychological Association is relieved that President Trump issued an executive order yesterday ending the administration's policy of separating immigrant children from their families. However, there are still many questions and concerns regarding the treatment of immigrant families who may be housed together in the Defense Department and other federal facilities and detained longer than is currently permitted by law. We are also gravely concerned about the fate of more than 2,300 immigrant children who have already been separated from their parents and are being held in shelters and foster care. These children have been needlessly traumatized and must be reunited with their parents or other family members as quickly as possible to minimize any long-term harm to their mental and physical health. We recommend 4 principles to guide immigration policy. We know that there are a number of bills that are being considered. And so those policies should, those bills should ensure that families are not separated. Number 2, that services for children and families are informed by research on trauma-informed care. That culturally appropriate mental health services are made available to these children and families. And that we use the same standards that are applied to these immigrant children that are applied to children who are in our child welfare system in the United States. Decades of psychological research show that children and parents are in danger of experiencing toxic stress as a result of lengthy separations. Toxic stress can cause irreparable harm to children's development by disrupting their brain architecture and other biological systems. This in turn can lead to a host of mental health and physical problems as well as social problems later in childhood and in adulthood. These problems can include severe psychological distress, including PTSD, sleep disturbances, withdrawal, substance use, aggressive behavior, and a decline in educational achievement. The longer the parent and child are separated, the more severe that these symptoms may become. Furthermore, young children, especially infants and toddlers, thrive with personal contact and need to be held by parents and caregivers. Research has shown that children who are not touched can experience such serious problems as depression, anxiety, and developmental delays. And yet we have heard reports that caregivers in some of these shelters are forbidden to touch the children. The bottom line is we need to enact immigration policies that are humane and are in the best interest of children and families. The American Psychological Association and our members stand ready to assist in getting these children the appropriate psychological care that they may need during this time that they're in the United States custody and upon their release. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Georges Benjamin, Executive Director of the American Public Health Association.
Good afternoon, everyone. You know, we remain alarmed by the environment that has materialized as a result of the administration's zero tolerance policy. And we continue to worry about the health impact to the children and their families that are in custody. This policy, as you've heard, has resulted in the separation of way too many children from their families. And it's not just the practice of separation, but it's also the manner in which it's done that disturbs us. I want to be real clear about something. I've been to summer camp. This is not summer camp. I've had sleepovers with my kids. This is not a sleepover. Remind you that they always go home. Now, I'm hopeful that some of the things the administration says they're going to do, they'll do. But the issue is in whether or not they actually follow through. We believe it's very important that they expedite additional resources right now to address those children that are that need of services. We demand the immediate reunification of these families. You've heard about the health impact of this. I can tell you that this is creating an enormous public health crisis for these kids, not only in the short term, but in the long term. And it's very important that the administration changes its policies and practices to end this amazing human rights tragedy. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That concludes our press conference. They've called votes. You can ask the individual speakers here for questions after this. I'm going to return right after I cast my first vote if you'd like me to answer some questions as well. But this concludes this press conference. Thank you very much.